I sit beside a low lamp. Its light is warm and still. The air carries the soft hum of the evening. Sheets of sound from outside drift in and then fade. This room becomes a gentle vessel. It holds tired limbs, wandering thoughts, and hearts worn thin by the day. A book rests on the lap. The cover is familiar. The spine remembers many evenings like this. Before the reading begins, a quiet happens. The quiet is an invitation. It asks for attention without force. Breathing slows. Shoulders loosen. The body settles into the chair or the pillow. The mind eases its grip on the day. An open heart comes first. This is not a command. It is a soft request. An open heart means honesty. It means bringing what is true in the chest without hiding. Joy belongs here as much as sorrow. Doubt and gratitude sit side by side. Fear can be present without shame. The evening does not demand polished answers. It welcomes the real. Participation is simple. No elaborate preparation is needed. Hands can rest. Eyes might close. Listening deeply is enough. One may breathe with intent. Another may trace the rim of a mug or smooth a blanket. All these small acts are participation. The body learns to be quiet. The mind learns to be tender. Feelings are valid. This room makes space for them. Grief is allowed to unfold in its own time. Anger may arrive and be held without judgment. Hope may lift its head even when it feels fragile. The presence of Christ offers a steadying hand. Mercy is not earned here. It is given. Assurance is offered not as a quick fix but as a steady companion. I hold the book with care. It is more than paper and ink. It carries voices that have soothed many nights. These pages bring language for the soul. They speak to life's small pains and to the deep longings that wake at midnight. The reading will be gentle. Words will move slowly. The cadence is measured. Each sentence lands with room to breathe. This hour moves away from argument. Theology will not be a battleground. Complex debates have their place. But not here. The aim is rest and restoration. Short phrases and clear images guide the mind toward calm. The message centers on mercy, hope, and presence. Christ's love frames the evening. This love reaches without demanding performance. It waits with patience. A simple picture helps. Imagine a lamp held close on a dark path. The lamp does not erase the night. It shows one step at a time. The path becomes navigable. Fear loosens its hold enough for a single step. The reading offers that lamp. It does not solve every confusion, but it illuminates a way forward. Steady and small. Breath becomes a friend. Breathe in slowly. Hold for a moment. Breathe out and let the tension go. Repeating this breath draws the heart to a gentler place. The rhythm of breath and word together forms a quiet ritual. Each line from the pages becomes a small boat crossing toward rest. There is no hurry. The pace is unhurried by design. Short sentences guide the ear. Each idea has space. The silence between words becomes part of the message. It allows truth to sink in. It lets emotions move without being rushed. Honesty about where the night finds each soul matters. If worry sits heavy, name it quietly to the self. If gratitude gleams like a small coin, hold it up to the light. If longing hums beneath the surface, let it be present. Such naming does not require confession to a stranger. It is simply recognition. Recognition opens a door. The reading will lie alongside that recognition. Words will tend toward comfort. They will point to a presence that offers rest. The presence is gentle, yet sure, like a steady hand on the shoulder when the knees feel weak. Hope arrives in small gestures. A promise that is simple and plain often carries more rest than a complex explanation. Prayer in this moment is brief and humble. It is not a list of demands. It is a breath offered. It places the evening into hands that care. Mercy meets the whispered need. Assurance grows from the touch of that mercy. There is no pressure to pray perfectly. A single word of thanks or a silent plea is enough. The sound of the voice reading will be calm. The tone will be warm, and even words will be chosen to soothe. Sentences will fall like rain on a roof. Steady and familiar. The mind can follow without strain. Pictures will form slowly. Each one clear and kind. Imagination is invited, not forced. The heart can rest into the story instead of racing with it. This is a place for small lights. Stories of gentle faith will come, images of grace, bread, and shelter will surface. These simple things ground a weary heart. No grand proclamations are needed. A quiet tale of patience often steadies more than a loud speech. The reading draws toward a quiet trust that shines in the hush. Feelings of shame or failure are met kindly. The room offers space to set them down. Mercy receives whatever hands come open. It wraps around mistakes without rubbing them raw. Healing is not a sudden fix. It is a slow mending. Threads of hope stitch the frayed edges back together. Time and gentleness do the rest. There is room here for questions. Not all questions will be answered this night. Some will sleep for a season. Others will breathe easier after being named. The reading listens more than it lectures. It holds questions with tenderness and faith, without needing to force closure. Simplicity guides the language. Short, specific images make the content easy to hear. Each sentence aims to be a soft landing. Hard theological terms are left aside. The emphasis rests on present care. A soothing rhythm becomes the form of the message. Each phrase is chosen to calm rather than confuse. The evening invites a slow surrender, not a loss of agency, but a willing lowering of burdens into hands that can carry them. Surrender here is an act of trust. It is like placing a small stone into a river and watching the current take it. The stream holds the stone and keeps moving. Peace follows that release. Assurance is gentle and consistent. It does not demand proof. The assurance is like a heartbeat. In the quiet room, it keeps time with the breath. A steady reminder of presence fills the space. Mercy enters without announcing itself loudly. It arrives with soft footsteps and stays. A simple image of rest helps now. Picture a field at dusk. The light thins. The air cools. Crickets begin their soft chorus. The day folds into evening without struggle. The field does not cling to the sun. It accepts the night and finds beauty in the change. This field is a mirror for the soul. Acceptance here does not mean giving up. It means allowing the night to offer its gifts. Hope looks forward but does not rush. It is a patient thread that runs through the evening. The thread ties present longings to a future that is gentle and sure. It is not a promise of instant answers. It is a promise that the story is held in the hands of one who knows the heart. That knowledge brings comfort. Listening is active. Ears hear not just words but tone and silence. The whole body participates. Muscles relax. Eyes soften. The mind unknots one small worry at a time. This is not immediate transformation. Change arrives slowly. Small shifts add up. Before the reading begins in earnest, a breath together gathers the group. No loud pronouncements. Only a shared moment. A soft invitation to bring what is true into the space. A pause to settle. The lamp remains steady. The book opens gently. The next part will be the first reading. The selection will be calm and plain. It will speak to the heart without weighing it down. Images of mercy. Rest and quiet courage will appear. The voice will read in a steady rhythm. Each word will have space to land. This is a moment made for healing. The intent is clear. Comfort comes through reminded presence. Mercy arrives without condition. Hope settles like a small lamp beside the bed. The reading is not a performance. It is a shared act of presence. Hearts may respond in many ways. Silence. Tears. A small smile. Or a soft breath. All are welcome. With this invitation set, the pages are ready. The first line will begin with a calm step forward. The lamp's light holds the book. The room breathes in anticipation. The reading opens the door to rest. A gentle pause follows. And then the soft sound of words begins. The lamp breathes a soft circle of light. It holds the open book and the reader's hands. Before the words fall, a small invitation comes. If this hour brings some quiet for you, consider staying. A gentle request follows the reading. Subscribing, commenting, and sharing help shape a sheltered place. They build a small community that remembers one another. That community becomes another kind of lamp. It keeps watch through dark nights. It offers simple spiritual comfort tonight. Some nights feel empty in a way that is hard to name. A hollow at the center of the chest. A silence where voices used to be. The world moves on the other side of the glass. The hands remain still. Being forgotten can feel like a slow drift. It is a heavy quiet. It is a small, persistent ache. This feeling is valid. It is not a failing. It is a human ache that asks for a soft reply. I speak to that ache now, not with a quick fix, not with a loud promise, only with a close truth. Names matter. Stories count. Even when no one else remembers, a presence remembers. The remembering is quiet and steady. It does not call attention. It keeps each name safe. This remembering is not a demand for performance. It is a shelter that does not require explanation. Think of a path in the woods that no one walks anymore. Leaves cover the trail. The map still exists. Someone still knows the way. The path is not lost. It waits. The memory of that path is like a hand that holds a name. The hand may be unseen. The care is real. The heart that leans into that care finds footing again. I hold the book and turn the page slowly. The reading is gentle. The sentences come like soft footsteps. They do not rush the soul. Each image is plain. Each thought is easy to follow. One line speaks of a voice that hears the smallest sound. Another picture is of a ledger kept with careful hands. A list of names sits there. Each one matters. The pages say more by silence than by word. Tears have a language of their own. They tell stories that words cannot. If tears come tonight, let them fall. The room does not judge. Mercy waits beside them. The reading acknowledges the ache. It says that tears are known and kept. The count of them matters. They are not wasted. Something holds them with care. Loneliness can make the night wider. It stretches the darkness like an unbroken field. In that field, stars still burn. Their light reaches places that seem empty. One small star is enough to guide a step. The reading points to that star. It reminds the heart that light is not absent. Just because the sky looks vast, presence can be small and still enough. There is a picture of a shepherd in these pages. The shepherd moves with patient steps. The flock does not always know the way. The shepherd's voice is soft. It brings them back. This image is not distant. It sits near. It reaches to the places where fear sits like a stone. The shepherd bends to lift what is low. Strength in that gentleness eases the weight of being forgotten. Some nights demand a memory of being held. Remembering can start with a small thing. A name whispered in a quiet ear. A single seed pressed into soil. An old photograph set by the bed. These small gestures stitch a path back to belonging. They are plain and steady. The reading names them one by one. Grief and gratitude can live beside each other in the same small space. One can be present while the other rests. Holding both feels strange. Yet the pages accept that mixture. They do not force a tidy resolution. Instead, they offer patience. That patience is a kind of mercy. It eases the pressure to have everything figured out by morning, when being forgotten feels like an absence of voice. Try this simple act. Breathe slowly. Count 4 in. Hold for a quiet 2. Let the breath go on 7. The breath becomes a small ritual. It reminds the body that rhythm still exists. The rhythm is a form of remembering. It keeps time with the heart. It helps the mind stop leaning toward fear. I pause between lines. The silence is part of the message. It gives room for what is true to settle. The quiet allows memory to breathe. It makes space for small, tender things to surface. Maybe a childhood song, maybe the feel of a hand at the wrist, maybe a sentence from a book that once mattered. These small things return like soft birds to a windowsill. Mercy is described not as always fixing everything. It comes as steady presence. It sits without judgment. It holds what needs holding. That kind of mercy honors the slow work of healing. It does not hurry the night. It makes a steady place to rest. until the morning moves the world again. Fear often speaks loudly when the body is tired. It creates stories about being alone forever. The book offers a counter-story. It speaks of a close attention that does not tire. It says that one is thought of even in empty moments. That thoughtfulness is not conditional. It does not withdraw when the mood turns dark. It acts like a watchful lamp on a quiet porch. The lamp may not banish night. It makes the path safe enough for a single step. Belonging sometimes needs to be named again. Say to the self in the hush, I am seen. I am remembered. These words are simple. They are not empty. Saying them aloud or in the mind becomes a small practice. Over time, the repetition helps the heart believe what it cannot yet feel. Prayer in this part of the night is a small thing. It is a breath offered without performance. It is a word for the felt loneliness. It is a quiet placing of the day into hands that care. The prayer need not be long. A single line of thanks, a soft request for rest. The act matters more than the length. Communion with a gentle group matters tonight. If this channel helps, leaving a comment can be a small act of connection. Share a tiny sign that this hour reached a place inside. Subscribe to return on other nights. Sharing with someone else can be an offering. These acts build a community of remembering. They are not demands. They are ways to tether one another in the dark. Healing is pictured like a slow mending. Threads are pulled through frayed cloth. Each stitch is small. Over time, the whole fabric gathers strength. The reading invites patience. It invites trust in the slow seam of time and care. The night does not rush the mending. It simply holds it and watches. The voice reads again. It speaks of hands that touch without taking. It speaks of a presence that keeps watch like an old friend. The language is plain. There is no attempt to resolve every sorrow. Instead, the reading leans into the reality of being held where forgetting hurts most. There is a small hope threaded through the pages. It is not loud. It does not promise instant change. It promises a faithful closeness. It promises someone who keeps names and cares for each small loss. The hope is like a steady heartbeat in a quiet room. It keeps time with breath and lamp and closed eyes. As the reading slows, a short invitation returns. If this hour comforted, tell someone. Leave a note below. The comment may be a quiet thanks. It may be a shared memory of feeling seen. Each note is like a pebble dropped into a still pond. The ripples reach farther than one might think. I close the book as the last line settles. The room holds a gentle hush. The lamp hums softly. Before turning the page to the next reading, a final pause rests the space. The next part will continue in this tone. It will not hurry the heart. It will bring more images of mercy and quiet courage. The Bible reading remains simple and slow. It reads like a hand placed gently on the shoulder. The night keeps its steady rhythm. Breath follows breath. The promise of this small community lingers. Subscribing and sharing remain ways to carry this night forward. Each small act helps others find a lamp when they feel unseen. For now, settle deeper. Let the silence carry what the words could not finish. Rest in the fact that being forgotten is not the final word. Something remembers. The remembering brings a calm that is enough for this hour. The lamp dims slightly as the page turns toward what comes next. I hold the book open. The lamp makes the pages warm. My hand stays steady. The room breathes with me. I let the words begin slowly. I read the shape of this psalm first. It is a calm map. It shows two paths. One path bends toward noise and quick praise. The other path moves toward steadiness. The choice feels close to the chest. The words do not scold. They invite. A man or woman who avoids flatterers and cruel counsel is called happy. The psalm says happy, not boastful, not distant, just steady happiness. The phrase is simple. It sits like a small stone in the palm. The happy one does not walk where gossip leads. They do not stand in the place where people mock goodness. They do not sit with those who make delight in harm. Instead, the psalm says, delight is kept in a different book. The heart finds joy in the simple law. It is law that guides like a lamp, not a heavy chain. The faithful mind thinks of this law day and night. It turns it over like a seed. The words settle into the soil of life. They root quietly. I pause and breathe. Let the picture sink. Like rain into dry earth. Think of a tree planted by clear water. The image comes with an ease. The tree has deep roots. It drinks without strain. It does not fear the heat of the day. Its leaves stay green. It gives fruit at the right season. It stands steady when the wind passes. That tree is not flashy. It does not shout. It holds its place. The psalm draws no bright banners. It simply points to steadiness in a small, sustaining way. This steadiness feels like a hand on the back of the neck that says, keep walking. The hand does not push. It guides. Now imagine the other path. The psalm says, the wicked are like chaff. Chaff flies when the wind moves. There is no weight to it. It has no root. It scatters. The picture is not meant to frighten. It simply contrasts. One way finds root and water. The other finds only the gusts of passing praise. I close my eyes for a heartbeat between phrases. The quiet holds the edges of each image. It keeps room for feeling. If a name rises tonight that feels neglected, bring it here. Let the psalm breathe around it. The quiet does not make the feeling small. It makes space for it. I read on in the same slow rhythm. The one who watches the path of the righteous knows every step. The path of the wicked ends where judgment comes like a late rain. The listening heart does not have to fear this as a weapon. It is a promise of order, a return to rightness. The psalm keeps the view plain. It names consequences without cruelty. These lines sit near to the ache of being unseen. They turn the idea of being forgotten into a gentle correction. If invisible moments accumulate, the psalm suggests a steady truth roots matter. A person who leans into what is good finds a way to drink. Presence follows the practice of leaning. The outward world may pass by. The inward life can remain nourished. I think of nights when I have felt small. I remember sitting in a crowded room where voices flowed like a river. and my name slipped like a small leaf on the current. I remember a hospital waiting room where hours stretched, and the calendar seemed to cheat time. I remember days at a desk where email counted me as a task rather than a person. These memories rise now with softness. They do not demand to be fixed. They simply sit in the room like old friends. In those times, I learned to practice. I turned my face towards the small lamp. I breathed slow. I named one small, true thing. A single line from a psalm. A memory of a hand held still. A child's laugh remembered from years ago. These tiny acts become roots. They draw a low stream of peace through a dry day. They do not erase the ache. They water it enough for growth. The psalm's lamp glows here. It does not call for grand action. It asks for a steady leaning, a steady letting of the law of love and simple truth into the mind and heart. The practice of returning to this lamp makes a kind of slow remembering. It says you are not erased. You are not simply chaff. You are a planted thing with access to living water. I let the words fall like a soft rain, deliberate and slow. Each phrase gets room. I read the part about delight again. Delight is quiet. Delight returns to the same small good thing again and again. It is not always ecstatic. It is habitual. Habit can be a holy thing when it leads the soul back to the source. The voice in the room stays calm. Breath moves with breath. The lamp keeps the page bright. This steady light and steady voice are part of the reading. They are not loud. They are not elaborate. They are enough. They keep company with the small truths that the psalm offers. I share a memory of a time when God's presence felt close and yet unnamed. I stood in a doorway at dusk. The day had been long and disordered. A simple kindness arrived without fanfare. A neighbor bringing bread. A note left on the table. The action said, "I saw you. You belong." The psalm echoes that tenderness. It reminds the heart that presence sometimes comes in quiet gestures. Those gestures are not small. They are like a stream hidden in the hill. They are sustenance. There are nights when the mind insists on worth, measured by applause. The psalm counters with a softer measure. Root depth matters more than shouts. Quiet endurance matters more than 1,000 nods. This does not make loneliness less true. It offers a different way to hold that truth. Instead of asking the world to see, the psalm invites a turning toward the steady source that already sees. Breathe with me now. Long in. Hold. Long out. Let the breath match the swing of the words. The rhythm calms the nervous busy. It draws the attention inward. It helps the heart notice small signs of life. I read the closing lines slowly. The Lord watches the way of the righteous. The way of the wicked comes to ruin. These phrases are not threats. They are gentle boundaries. They say that reality has a shape. There is a way that brings life. There is a way that scatters. Think of the psalm like a small map given to a tired traveler. The map points to a well. The traveler does not have to run. The traveler can walk. The map reassures without forcing speed. It promises that if one leans toward life, water will meet root. The lamp in the book makes the road visible one step at a time. As I read, I returned to the idea of being remembered. This psalm is a soft witness to that remembering. It does not depend on crowds. It depends on faithfulness. It depends on the simple, repeated choice to live by what sustains. There is a presence that keeps a list of names, not in an anxious ledger, but in a faithful heart. That presence does not forget. I allow a quiet confession here. Sometimes I long for loud proof. Sometimes I wish for public markers of my worth. But the night teaches differently. The slow work of planting matters. It is humble work. It happens away from the cameras of the world. Roots do their work in dirt and dark. They drink without applause. They still grow. If neglect has carved a hollow tonight, lean into one small practice. Find a line from this psalm that sits like a stone. Repeat it slowly in the mind. Let it thicken the memory of being seen. Let it be a small lamp in the chest. All time, repetition becomes root. I close the book softly after the last line. The lamp keeps its circle of light. The room holds a hush that feels like a hand offered. The psalm lingers like a scent. It does not demand. It steadies. Before the page turns to the next reading, rest a beat here. Let the idea of being planted settle. Let the memory of times when I felt unseen become a small bridge. Not a barrier. Trust that presence walks beside those who steady their feet by the source. The next pages will keep this calm. They will move slowly and kindly. They will bring other images of mercy and quiet courage. For now, let the psalm be a small mattress for the heart. Lay the head down on the gentle promise that roots grow in patient soil. The lamp dims only a little. The breath remains steady. The night waits and keeps watch. I hold the book close again. The pages feel cool under my fingers. I read slowly. The words say that nothing hides from the one who made breath and bone. Thoughts are known before they form. Emotions do not pass like secret birds. They land where a watchful hand can feel their weight. I do not try to explain how this knowing works. I only say it gently. It is a plain comfort. There is no demand that the heart be brave. There is no need to tidy every ache. The presence that knows also stays. It does not recoil from our small, messy moments. Tonight, I let that truth rest beside the reading. The sentence sits between the lines like a soft bridge. It carries the weight of many small confidences. It says, "You are seen in your quiet." It says each thought matters. It says the feelings you hide are known and held. After the reading, I walk out the back door. The night is cool. Air moves low and slow. A path leads toward the river. Feet make gentle sounds on the ground. A few leaves stir like small applause. The house behind me breathes softly. The lamp in the window is a pale witness. I do not hurry. The river is near. I know its sound before I see it. Water always carries its own voice. It speaks without words. It moves in a rhythm that the chest remembers. I sit on a low bank. The earth is soft. My coat folds around the knees. The book rests closed beside me. The water moves steady and plain. Stars watch from above. Their light is cool and distant. It does not push. It only keeps company. The river reflects the sky in small, trembling pieces. Each piece holds a different bit of light. I think of how thoughts can be like that, fragments of a larger night. I let the mind slow to the pace of the water. A worry floats up. It looks small when it reaches the surface. It does not need to be chased. Another feeling drifts by. A sudden joy from earlier sits like a bright leaf. I point no finger at them. I name them softly in my mind. The act of naming is like touching a map. It helps me find my way. The thought of being known returns in the hush. Here, by the river, the idea is not abstract. It becomes a plain fact. The one who counts stars also counts the small stirrings of the heart. The water does not judge what it carries. It simply moves it along. Gentle and steady. That is the shape of the care I read about earlier. I press my palm to the cool ground. The soil gives molecules and roots mingle under the skin. The same care that keeps the river flowing keeps the inside of the chest from turning to stone. That thought feels like a small blessing. I breathe it in. Memory rises. A face from years ago appears at the edge of thought. Not a loud memory, a glancing one. It comes with no command to fix it. It is simply present. The presence that knows these things touches it as well. There is no surprise there. Even the smallest reluctance is visible to that watchful kindness. The river speaks in soft syllables. It tells of places upstream where stones shape the flow. It whispers of bends where the current slows and pools. I imagine my life like that river. There are narrow parts where anxiety squeezes the chest. There are wide pools of contentment that sit like mirrors. The one who knows maps every bend. The mapping does not punish. It simply watches and stays. A moth flutters near my knees. It circles once, and then rests on the hem of the coat. The creature does not worry about the meaning of its visit. It simply moves, and then rests. I follow its small example. Movement is okay. Rest is okay. Each action is seen. The fact that the smallest insect comes into the light feels like company. Sometimes knowing feels like a weight. To be seen can make the skin prickle. I do not pretend it always feels easy. I only say that knowing is also a kind of shelter. To be known is to be kept from wandering alone. The night here by the river holds that shelter. It does not hide the dark. It simply shares it. I trace the line of the river with my eyes. It bends like a long hand across the land. The current sings around a stone. The sound is steady. It keeps time. I match my breath to that time. In, out, in, out. A slow metronome. I think of thoughts that come and go at odd hours. The mind can invent ghosts. Sometimes the chest fills with small assumptions about failure or grief. In the hush of the river, those ghosts look less fearsome. They seem like small papers on the water. Not the whole sky. The presence that knows every thought can touch them without being shocked. It holds them and lets them be. This presence knows the faces of every feeling. It knows the angle of each sorrow. It knows how deep gratitude can sit when no one else notices. It knows the exact measure of the laughter that comes in the dark. This kind of knowing is not a microscope that dissects. It is a hand that keeps careful watch. A line from the reading earlier comes not as a pressure but as an invitation. To be known well is to be loved through and through. Love here is patient. It does not demand that the heart be tidy. It gathers the loose ends with gentleness. The river itself seems to embody that gathering. It takes everything the land offers and does not scorn the pieces. I think of nights when the chest feels crowded with questions. The presence that knows does not answer all of them at once. Many questions stay gentle in the dark. The river shows me that answers can come slowly. A pebble toss reveals a ring. The ring widens. Time works that way. Presence keeps the rhythm so the heart can rest between questions. The scene at the river gives room for simple prayers. I do not make them long. I breathe one short request into the air. I place a single small word on the current. The prayer does not need to be clever or loud. It is enough that I offer it where the water moves and the stars listen. I remember hands that held mine in other nights. Their warmth returns like a faint light. The thought of those hands mixed with the idea of being known makes the chest soft. The presence I read about keeps those hands in its memory as well. It preserves the names of gentle acts. That keeps the soul anchored. Silence stretches. It is not empty. It is full of small, listening things. Crickets make a steady score. The river keeps its soft song. A distant train sighs once. The sky leans in like a patient listener. The whole scene holds a quiet promise. Living things are watched over. Not every moment here is beautifully resolved. Shadows cross the water. A sudden wind brings cold from the open field. The body shivers. The presence that knows is not offended by the shiver. It moves nearer. I feel a subtle steadiness like a hand pressed at the back of the neck. The effect is not grand. It is simple and sure. I do not proclaim answers. I only pass along what soothes the night. The truth that someone knows every thought and cares for every feeling becomes a balm. It does not remove all questions. It steadies the hand enough to put the book down and rest. I lift the book and turn the page slowly. The paper whispers. There is no hurry to read. The river keeps time with the breath. The scene invites a small ritual. Keep the eyes soft. Let the mind not clench. Let the heart open by inches. It is a slow work. Soon, I will read a few lines that speak to this exact hush. They will be gentle sentences that remind the listener of inner watching and tender care. The voice will be quiet. The rhythm will be measured. The reading will not demand immediate change. It will offer a touchstone. For now, I rest a while longer by the river. I allow the flow to carry away sharper edges. I notice how even the smallest things, the cool of the air, the texture of the grass, the way a single star trembles become signs of being known. The presence that sees the vast also keeps vigil over these small traces. When I stand to walk back, the ground holds my weight. The path seems softer than before. The river's voice recedes behind me. Faithful and sure, I do not walk faster. Steps are slow and steady. The night does not end. It stretches into the next room where the lamp waits, and the book will open again. Before I close this part of the reading, I place a short prayer into the silence. It is a breath and a name. It asks only for rest and courage to remember that being known is a gift. The prayer here is small, humble, enough. Back at the door, I pause and place a hand against the wood. The house answers with its small warmth. Inside, the lamp glows like a promise. The pages of the book turn easily. The evening continues. The knowledge that I am known settles into the bones like a quiet coat. The river still hums in the memory. Its song will breathe into the next lines I read. The gentle assurance of presence will hold the rest of the night. I close the cover softly. The lamp sheds a gentle circle of light. The breath slows. The room leans into sleep. The reading will continue in the next part. Steady and calm, keeping company with the truth that every thought is known and every feeling is kept with care. I lift the book and breathe with the room. The lamp keeps its pool of light. I say a simple line slowly. I speak the heart of a verse that asks us to let go. The words move like a soft command. They do not push. They invite. Cast your anxieties upon him, because he cares. I say the sentence once. I let it rest. I do not rush. The line is plain and small. It lands in the quiet space between breaths. I do not read to prove anything. I read to offer a practice. The practice is gentle. It asks that we hand over worry in small portions. It does not promise immediate absence of trouble. It promises a change in where the weight rests. The night makes that promise feel possible. When I was younger, I thought of anxiety as a heavy sack. I carried it in the front of my chest. It made steps clumsy. It blurred the edges of the day. I learned a different habit by a river. The river taught me how to set things down. One late evening, I walk the low path to the water. The moon is thin. The river moves like quiet cloth. I sit on a flat stone. The air is cool on the cheek. I gather a handful of small pebbles from the bank. I do not plan a ritual. The action arrives naturally. I name a few worries in my mind. A sharp one from morning. A steady hum that has lived in my shoulder for months. A small fear about a friend. I do not shout these things. I say them softly to myself. Naming is the first small work. It changes thought from shapeless cloud to a thing I can hold. I pick up the first pebble. The skin of my thumb feels its roughness. I hold the worry lightly. Then I place the pebble in my palm, as if handing it to someone. I speak the idea, not aloud, but in the hush that sits close. I imagine holding the worry out of my chest. I imagine another hand receiving it. I walk to the water's edge. The river breathes against the bank. I set the pebble on the surface. The stone settles, and the water ripples. The ripple spreads, neat and slow. I watch the circle widen until the stone sinks entirely. The worry does not vanish in the world. It simply changes address. The burden moves from a clenched place to the flowing place. The act is small. It is symbolic, yet it shifts something inside. Naming and handing over feel like a trade. I give up the tightness. I accept the steady care that is offered. The river does not judge. It does not ask why the pebble came. It takes it and keeps moving. That night, I sit longer. The river speaks in a tone that is neither loud nor frightening. It is a sound like the breath of the earth. For a while the chest becomes soft. The sense of being alone thins. Presence does not arrive as a voice. It arrives as a wideness around the narrow worry. I feel contained, not crowded. The idea that care reaches even the smallest pebble stays with me. The verse asks for a casting. Cast is not a violent throw. It is a gentle placing. The word has room. It allows respect for the thing we name. We hold the worry with compassion. Then we let it go. The practice is tender and steady. Back at home, I learned to make a nightly habit from that river. I keep a small bowl on the bedside table. It is not bright. It is simple. When a thought wakes me, I pick up a coin or a pebble. I name the thought. I place the object in the bowl. The action grounds me. It is a tiny rehearsal of handing over. Sometimes the brain protests. It wants to hold tight. It argues that more thought will solve the problem. The bowl does not promise solutions. It promises a different posture. It teaches the muscle of trust. Trust here is not a sudden leap. It is a repeated leaning. The casting asked for in the verse is about confidence in care. It is not about denying difficulty. It is about moving the burden toward one able to keep it. The caring is steady. It is like a long table that will not collapse under dishes. It bears weight without complaint. I notice how the body responds when I practice. Shoulders ease. The jaw unclenches. Breath lengthens. The mind quiets enough to see one clear thought at a time. Each night, I cast a little and I sleep more simply. The small ritual is not magic. It is a habit that rewires the knee-jerk of worry. The river image helps. Water takes what is placed into it and carries it elsewhere. The current does not become anxious about the cargo. It keeps moving. The heart can be like that current. It can receive what is offered and still keep flowing. The radical part of the idea is that care greets the offering without tallying faults. I remember a night when the bowl on the table stays empty for a long time. A particularly fierce worry clings like burrs. I do not find the usual quiet. I sit and try to will the thought away. That night I breathe differently. I do not try to force the pebble out of my hand. I imagine sliding it into the river from a distance. My imagination is small but steady. It becomes an act of grace. The thought feels less wild. The tightness softens. The verse also gives a reason, because he cares. That line is not a challenge. It is an assurance. The care is not abstract. It is the kind that looks close at the sore edges and does not flinch. The caring presence keeps a record of small things. It watches trembling hearts, not as projects, but as beloved places. I make a short prayer there by the river. I do not ask for a list of outcomes. I say a slow sentence, asking simply for rest. The prayer is a breath that moves from chest to air and asks for a sheltering hand. After that, the chest feels less like a wound and more like a place that can mend. I do not always feel the relief at once. Sometimes the mind returns to the worry like a moth to light. When that happens, I return to the pebble again. I hold it. I say the name. I hand it over. Each repetition is not failure. It is practice. It builds a quieter rhythm in a life used to loud alarms. There is also a tenderness toward those who cannot easily name their fears. Not everyone can lay a hand on a pebble. and call the weight by name. Verschumme. The anxieties live too diffuse for a simple label. For such nights, the practice becomes simpler still. I breathe with them. I imagine a gentle tide drawing out the edges. I say a single line of trust, and let it be a small anchor. The room and the river teach me patience. Casting anxieties is not a one-time feat. It is more like learning to walk. At first, the steps are cautious. The feet stumble. Over time, walking becomes a pattern that carries to many places. The repeated casting builds confidence. The heart learns not to hoard fear. I tell the listeners in that tone, I carry to bed, take one worry tonight. Make it small. Name it. Place it somewhere safe. It may be a pebble, a coin, a written line folded into paper. If your hands are too tired, let the breath hold the work. Breathe the thought into the chest and breathe it out into the dark, imagining the current taking it away. I also say this care does not stop caring, because we worry. The care stays. That truth is a balm for nights, when guilt joins the pile of anxieties. Guilt often says worry is proof of weakness. The verse counters with an act of welcome. Care greets what is feared and keeps it in a tender hold. Sometimes I ask the reader to repeat a line slowly with me. One slow time anchors more than many hurried ones. Repeat the sentence like a lullaby. Let the cadence soothe. Let the mind find a new rhythm. The rhythm becomes a small faith muscle. Before I close the book this part of the night, I sit a while in the lamp's glow. I touch the bowl on the table. It is warm from earlier hands. I hold nothing critical of myself. The room keeps no ledger of failed attempts. The practice tonight is one more honest breath. If sleep does not come at once, the casting remains valuable. It changes where the work of worry happens. It moves that work from the cramped place inside into a wider custody. That custody keeps watch. My fingers close the book slowly. The lamplight bends soft. I leave an instruction gentle as a pillow. Choose one small worry before you let go of the light. Hand it over. Breathe. Rest. The river in my memory runs on. Its current keeps the small stones I offer. In time, the care makes even the smallest life feel seen and kept. I will read again in a little while. Until then, let the act of casting be a small song in the chest. Let the night receive it. Let the care that watches answer in its quiet way. The page turns when you are ready. The room stays with you. The lamp keeps its small kingdom of light. The book rests open. My thumb marks the place where the reading will move next. Tonight, the page turns toward forgiveness. The idea sits gently between past parts. It fits with casting anxieties and being known. Forgiveness shapes a quiet road to peace. I read slowly. Words about forgiving ask for a soft courage. They do not demand forgetfulness. They do not pretend harm disappears. They ask for a willingness to step out of the cycle that tightens the chest. The voice is calm. The lines sit like planks across a small stream. One step leads to another. A practice often helps more than a declaration. I hold a small bowl again. It is the same one used for worries. Tonight the bowl receives a folded slip of paper. On it I write a single name. The paper is not a public thing. It is private and simple. The act is small and tactile. The hand that folds the paper moves slowly. The fold is deliberate. The breath slows. Naming matters. To forgive. First name the hurt. Say the small fact to the self. The naming is not an accusation. It is an honest accounting. It takes weight from the memory by giving it shape. The line between thought and feeling becomes visible. That visibility allows change. Forgiveness is a path. It leads inward. It goes toward peace before it ever changes the other person. Sometimes nothing outward changes. The inward shift still matters. It makes room for sleep. It loosens the knotted place under the collarbone. Forgiveness asks for movement that does not erase the past. It frees the hands to carry new things. I think of evenings when a bitter memory surfaces just before sleep. The mind rewinds an old scene. The same sharp words replay. Muscle remembers the flinch. Knees tighten. That replay steals quiet. Forgiveness does not demand immediate reconciliation with the memory. It offers a simple trade. It asks that the old scene be set down into a safe place. The bowl on the bedside table becomes that place for tonight. The picture helps. Imagine a small river again. The hurt is a leaf. It floats on the current. If the hand keeps grabbing at the leaf, the fingers never rest. If the hand opens and lets the river take the leaf, the chest finds space. This image does not mean the leaf is fine. It only means the hand stops clenching. The river carries the leaf without scolding. Forgiveness has limits, that comfort, rather than excuse. It does not require returning to harm. It does not say that boundaries are unloving. Forgiveness can exist alongside careful protection. One can forgive and also choose safe distance. The two can live together like a lamp and a closed door. The lamp offers light. The door keeps the room safe. There is also the gentle idea of receiving forgiveness. Many nights find a heart harsh with self-judgment. The inner voice rehearses mistakes until every peaceful space fills. Receiving forgiveness is a practice. It asks the mind to accept mercy for oneself. The hand that places a paper in the bowl can turn then to the chest. A small breath speaks, I accept this grace. The sentence need not be proud. It only needs to be honest. I place the folded paper into the bowl. The act is small and final for the night. It is not magic. The paper does not erase what happened. The motion changes the posture of the sleeper. The shoulders relax a notch. The jaw softens. That small shift invites a different kind of dreaming. Sometimes forgiveness feels like a borrowed phrase. Practice makes it intimate. Start small. Choose a single, minor grudge. Name it. Fold it. Place it into the bowl. Repeat for something larger when able. The practice builds a muscle of release. It trains hands not to hoard old thorns. There are nights when anger resurges. The mind loops. The heart tightens again. When that happens, return to the bowl. Hold the habit tenderly. Each return is not failure. It is training, like a quiet walk that grows stamina. Forgiveness grows with repeated, gentle steps. Forgiveness also asks for a type of memory work that is kind. Remember the full picture, not only the sharpest shred. Hold kinder moments next to the painful ones. A single soft recollection can temper the heat of an old hurt, the memory of a laugh, a shared meal, a moment of apology. These things do not erase pain. They balance it. The mix helps the heart make a wider room. I read a line that says, "Mercy triumphs softly over judgment." The line is not an argument. It is an image of a hand lifting a small stone from the garden. The hand does not throw the stone away. It places it down with care. Mercy attends without condoning harm. It tends the place where resentment took root and removes the weed with steady patience. There is a prayer I keep short and plain. I say it in my mind as fingers close around the bowl. Ask for help to let go. The prayer says, ask for help to receive kindness for oneself. Let it be simple. The prayer is not bargaining. It is a quiet reaching for assistance. Saying it once or twice softens the habit of holding tight. Sometimes forgiveness arrives slowly like a tide. At first, only a small part of the shore looks different. Later, the water moves further up the sand. The change is gradual and steady. Expecting sudden erasure only brings discouragement. Trust the steady current of grace to change the landscape in its time. Forgiveness also rests on truth. It is not forgetting that something hurt. It is choosing not to armor the chest against every dawn. The choice does not make one naive. It makes one less captive. The heart opens again to small delights. It lets in a neighbor's low kindness. It notices the way steam lifts off a mug. It hears the soft steps of someone coming in late. These small things feel more available when the chest loosens. There are practical boundaries that respect the safety of the self. Saying no is not the opposite of forgiveness. It may be the soil in which forgiveness can eventually grow. Forgiveness asks only that bitterness not be the final word. A firm and gentle boundary keeps the field safe for healing. It does not cancel the work of letting go. I press my palm to the bowl as if sealing the small choice. The lamp lights the paper's crease. The room tilts toward sleep. The breath finds a rhythm like a calm sea. A small sense of relief gathers below the ribs. The world does not need to be fixed for this peace to be real. There is also a shared forgiveness. The practice can reach outward in time. When reconciliation is safe and mutual, it can be a quiet repair. When it is not safe, forgiveness still works inwardly. The private handing over does not require the other person's presence. It only requires an honest heart and a humble willingness. Forgiveness makes room for hope. It loosens space for tomorrow. With one less knot, new generosity becomes possible. Hope does not demand that all is well. It only suggests a next small step to breathe, to rest, to wake and try again. Before finishing this part of the reading, I invite a small exercise. Take one breath. Name one hurt on the exhale. Fold a small slip of paper. Place it gently into a bowl or a river, or even a pot of soil. Let the motion be tender. Offer a short prayer in the silence, asking for help to let go and help to receive mercy. Do it without hurry. If hands are too tired, do this. Instead, imagine the name of the hurt written on a leaf. Imagine placing the leaf on water. Watch the current take it. The mind can practice release, even when the body cannot. The imagination is an ally. I close the book slowly. The lamp pulls its light one last time. The bowl sits quiet on the bedside. A final breath comes. Forgiveness tonight is not a demand. It is a gentle path. It leads to less crowded sleep. It opens up the small room within the chest where mercy can rest. The next part will carry these ideas into a short reading about mercy and rest. The voice will be the same, steady, gentle, plain. For now, fold the paper, place it down, breathe, rest. The path to peace begins with one tiny step taken in the hush. The lamp keeps its circle of light. The book rests open on the lap. Tonight the reading moves to a simple command in Ephesians. The phrase asks for kindness, tenderness, and forgiveness toward one another. It ties the call to the same mercy that has embraced the heart already. The thought is not a heavy rule. It is a soft invitation. I summarize it slowly. Be kind to each other. Show compassion in small, steady ways. Forgive one another as you have been forgiven. The instruction links outward acts with an inward mercy. It asks for hands that reach, not for hands that hold grudges. The tone is gentle. The purpose is peace. This kind of kindness asks for small gestures more than grand speeches. A short word of thanks. A helped plate at the sink. A held door. The acts do not need to solve every wound. They simply open space. Space where a tense jaw can soften. Space where sleep arrives with less resistance. Compassion changes the rhythm of a home. When the voice is ready to listen instead of judge, the rooms breathe differently. The chest unclenches. Nights become less noisy with replayed hurts. Compassion does not ignore truth. It notices suffering and responds with hands that heal slowly. The response is calm. It moves in patient steps. Forgiveness is part of that movement. It does not mean pretending nothing happened. It does not require stepping back into harm. Forgiveness is a letting go of the need to punish. It is a choice to stop feeding a grievance. The decision loosens the tightness under the ribs. It turns the mind from replaying a wound to allowing new small joys to come in. The teaching links forgiveness to how we ourselves have been received. Remembering the mercy one has received makes it easier to offer mercy. That remembering feels like a quiet hand at the back of the neck. It steadies the steps. It says, name the hurt, and then set it down. Practices help. They make the mercy lived and not just admired. Tonight, the bowl on the bedside returns. One slip of paper becomes a place to name a person to forgive. Another slip becomes a place to name someone to bless. The two acts balance the heart. One releases, the other reaches. Folded paper is tactile and simple. The fingers fold slowly. The crease is deliberate. The motion itself is part of the prayer. The slipping of the paper into the bowl is not magic. It is a bodily rehearsal of trusting mercy. The body learns a new posture. Shoulders lower. Breath lengthens. A short evening ritual helps the practice stick. Breathe in for 4 counts. Hold for 2. Breathe out for 6. Repeat twice more. With the inhale, imagine drawing kindness inward. With the exhale, Imagine sending it outward. Let each breath move an old, sharp feeling a fraction of an inch away from the heart. Small images make the idea easy to keep. Picture a lamp in a window. It does not shout. It simply shines. A person passing by notices it and feels less alone. Kindness works like that. It does not erase the dark. It offers one spot of warmth that steadies a step. Compassion is the same, a soft light that makes a path visible. Mercy in action changes the way mornings begin. An apology whispered before coffee breaks a chain. A note left on a pillow mends a cracked day. These small gestures are not grand reconciliations. They are stitches. Over time, a garment is repaired. The fabric grows stronger where it was once torn. Forgiving also frees space for rest. Carrying bitterness is an exhausting duty. The mind rehearses what happened like a play, and sleep sits in the wings, waiting. Letting go does not mean erasing the memory. It means releasing the claim that the memory will define the night. Sleep arrives more easily when the chest is not a ledger. I share a memory gently. Once a neighbor's sharp word lodged like a splinter. It ached with every movement. The tendency was to keep tending the wound, to press and focus on the pain. One night, after the river walk, a decision came in small clarity. Name the hurt. Fold the paper. Place it in the bowl. The next morning, a small note of thanks was passed in the doorway. The neighbor's face softened. The splinter did not vanish at once. Yet the need to keep picking at it did. That soft repair changed the rhythm of many evenings. The habit of tending grudges gave way to small acts of attention. The neighbor's quiet kindness became a new memory that balanced the old hurt. The heart learned to hold both without being consumed by either. Compassion also rests in listening. A quick, full attention at the end of the day matters. Put down the phone. Put aside the task list. Sit with a person and listen for a few minutes. Let them speak without interruption. The simple act of listening often quiets an anxious mind more than a dozen solutions. It says you matter enough to be heard. There is mercy for self as well. The same instruction to be kind to others includes being tender with the self. The inner critic is often loud in the dark. Offer instead a soft, true sentence. I tried. I am learning. Allow small failures to be lessons, not verdicts. That change in language softens the night. Sleep is less guarded when the inner voice is an ally. Forgiveness toward self sometimes feels harder than forgiving others. Old mistakes replay with vivid detail. Yet the same small gestures help. Write a short note of acceptance. Fold it. Place it in the bowl. Make a small vow to act differently tomorrow. The act is not grand. It is an honest reaching toward mercy. Practically, kindness makes decisions simpler in daily life. When irritated, pause for a breath. Choose a small, helpful act. Heat a cup of tea. Offer a blanket. These moments become the mechanics of grace. They retrain reflexes from reaction to response. Reflexes matter at night, when exhaustion lowers patience. A learned habit of reaching out can smooth many small frictions. Forgiveness also protects. Setting boundaries is not unkind. It is often the kindest act in a dangerous situation. Forgiveness removes the quick need for revenge. Boundaries keep harm from repeating. Both can exist in the same space. One softens the heart. The other keeps it safe. The quiet power of these practices shows in long evenings. Fewer storms rage. The mind does not spin as wildly through past slights. The lamp on the table becomes not just a light, but a witness to new patterns. The bowl fills not with bitterness, but with small papers of release and of blessing. The physical presence of those papers helps memory change. Sometimes the heart resists extending kindness. Resentment can feel like a shield. The shield keeps vulnerability at bay. Yet the shield also keeps out warmth. A small test makes the work manageable. Tonight, offer one small courtesy. It may be a text of thanks, a dish washed, a step closer. Note the easing in the chest. Let the small relief be encouragement to try again. The instruction in Ephesians is not a checklist. It is a way of living that leans into the mercy that has already been given. It asks for tenderness in action. It asks for forgiveness rooted in grace, practiced slowly. It brings a peace that carries into sleep. A short practice to close the night. Take 2 slips of paper. On one, write a name of someone to forgive. On the other, write a name of someone to bless. Fold each slowly. Place both into the bowl. Breathe in 4 counts. Hold 2. Breathe out 6. Imagine both names bathed in a soft light. Say a short, humble prayer for the courage to do small good tomorrow. No grand words are needed. A single honest breath will do. The lamp dims just a touch. The book rests closed a moment. The bowl sits ready on the bedside. The room feels softer than before. Kindness and compassion have a way of rewiring the night. Forgiveness loosens the tight places. Tranquility settles into the bones like a warm blanket. Before the page turns to the next reading, a simple invitation. Choose one small act of kindness to do in the morning. Choose one small hurt to fold away tonight. Practice both gently. Let mercy shape the sleep. Let compassion guide the waking. A short blessing floats up in the hush. May small kindnesses find your hands. May mercy meet the places that ache. May sleep come with less burden and more rest. The lamp breathes. The room leans into quiet. The next part waits. The page will open again when the breath is steady and the heart is ready. The lamp makes a quiet island on the table. The room breathes slow. The book waits, folded as a friend waits on a chair. Tonight I tell a small true story from home. It is a simple thing. It sits easy in the chest. It speaks of one family member's kindness and a soft forgiveness that built a bridge where distance had grown. The memory comes as a scene, not a long speech. I am in the kitchen. The light from the lamp turns the wooden surface warm. A kettle sings low on the stove. Outside, a thin rain taps the window. A past wrong hangs like an old coat on a peg. It still has the shape of a sharp word and a slammed door. The house carries it as quietly as it carries the smell of toast. The person who brings the kindness does not enter with a proclamation. She moves in plain ways. Hands do small work. She opens a jar. She sets 2 cups on the table. The motion is ordinary. The ordinariness is a kind of mercy. There had been a long time of not speaking Time had widened the space between rooms and between hearts. The hurt was small and large, all at once. Pride kept the wound warm. Shame kept company with the pride. Saying sorry felt like crossing a frozen pond alone. She sits opposite. The seat settles with a soft sound. No dramatic music plays. No bright confession is demanded. Instead, she offers a cup of tea. The action is careful. It says the simplest thing: you are not alone tonight. The kindness shows in 100 little details. A clean mug, rinsed and warmed. A napkin folded just so. A hand laying an extra blanket over an old chair. The gestures are not loud. They are steady. Each one says that the small practices of care still belong to this house. I notice the hesitant look, the shape of a person ready to step back. My chest tightens at the thought of trust. The mind lists old reasons to keep the distance. It names them one by one. Then a hand moves across the table and presses gently on top of mine. The contact is brief and light. It is not a demand. It is a presence. She does not try to explain away the past. She lets the past be as it was, and also offers another truth. The truth is in the returning to small things. A second cup does more than many words. The bowl of soup she brings later is not an apology written in ink. It is an apology lived in broth and warmth. It is patient, like a slow song that repeats and becomes a home. Forgiveness comes in parts. First, there is the offering. Then, there is the receiving. The receiving takes longer than giving. Old habits of guarding make the hand small and careful. The acceptance does not snap into place. It unfurls like a small plant, 1 inch at a time. I had rehearsed how to keep the distance. The script was familiar, yet the quiet acts cut lines from the script. The gesture of making room for another seat has its own authority. It does not shame the past. It simply refuses to let that past be the final chapter. At one point, a small photograph is found in a drawer and set on the table. It is yellowed at the edges. In the picture, there is a day when laughter spilled easy, and the sun made outlines of every face. The photograph steadies the heart. It is a reminder that the story of a family contains more than one kind of scene. Mercy weaves the scenes together, not by erasing the rough ones, but by adding new threads. She forgives without a grand sermon. The forgiveness is not a bargain. It is a way of living. It looks like staying. It looks like making the bed for the night. It looks like remembering to warm a plate. There is a humility in these acts that reaches the stubborn places. It has no need to be announced. It simply is. I notice the small struggle inside. Guilt wants a penance. Shame insists on a measure. Yet the kindness refuses to be a scale. It is softer than that. It sets down a hand and says, "Rest here." The rest is not an instant erasure. It is an invitation to begin again with a lighter load. A quiet prayer rises not loud, not crafted, no smart words. It is a single breath that offers gratitude for the hand that stayed. The breath is gentle. It carries a simple sentence to the hush. Hearing that prayer makes accepting forgiveness feel less like betrayal of justice and more like opening a door to small mercy. The night holds no heavy theology. It holds a real, human truth, small kindnesses are ways that love returns. The family member's forgiveness shows what mercy looks like at a table. It is not found in a dramatic gesture alone, but in the willingness to continue showing up. Later, after the cups are empty and the rain thins, a practice grows from that evening. I take one folded paper from the drawer where the photograph had been kept. On it I write a short name, not a long list or a public confession. One name, quiet and private. The paper fits into the palm. Folding slows the pulse. The act is like a small promise to try. I place that folded paper into the small bowl on the bedside table. The same bowl that once held pebbles and prayers now holds the name of the person who offered the kindness. The bowl becomes a witness. It keeps the act of forgiveness safe. The paper does not change the past. It trains the hand not to clutch anger. The family member's kindness also taught a gentle rule about gifts and boundaries. Forgiving is not always a signal that the old patterns should resume. It may mean setting a clear limit. At that table, the line between forgiveness and unwisely returning to harm was respected. The life around the house altered slowly, but with care. Boundaries were kept without coldness. That shape of mercy protects and heals. There is a small lesson that night about speech. Words are not always needed to fix things. Sometimes silence shared over a warm cup is enough to begin making a new memory. The quiet is not empty. It carries the weight of mutual attention. It cradles the fragility that surfaces when two people set down old armor. The kindness had a surprising effect on small things. The hallway light was left on at night again. A favorite chair returned to its usual place. The sound of someone humming while cooking came back. These are not heroic returns. They are small resurrections. They show that ordinary life can be the place where mercy quietly wins. I tell this story because it is a pattern worth repeating. Forgiveness in a family can change how sleep comes. The nights feel less like battlegrounds and more like rooms to rest. The small acts of kindness, repeated, reshape memory. They smooth the edges. They make the chest stop rehearsing the old scene on a loop. For listeners who hold old hurts tonight, try a small practice inspired by the story. Think of one soft gesture that could show up without fanfare. It could be making tea for someone, leaving a note on a pillow, or sending a short message that says simply, "I remember you." If that action is not safe, then imagine it instead. Picture placing a folded paper with the other person's name into a safe bowl. The imagination is a doorway. It trains the hand to open. There is also a practice for receiving. When forgiveness comes, accept it with a gentle breath. Let the chest unclench a little. Say a short inner sentence of thanks. This receiving is not weakening. It is honesty that frees energy for living. It makes room for small joys again. The story ends, not with a flashy reconciliation, but with a simple continuing. The house stays inhabited by small routines. The lamp on the table still warms the pages of the book. The bowl on the bedside keeps its folded pieces. The family's life moves forward one small act at a time. The kindness remains a steady example of how mercy behaves. Before I close this part of the night, a short prayer rises in the quiet. It is a breath that asks for courage to both offer and accept small kindnesses. It asks for wisdom to keep safe boundaries. It asks for the patience to let forgiveness be a slow mending rather than a quick fix. The prayer is brief, clean, and ready to rest. Now, take a slow breath with me. In, hold, out. Let the memory of a small, kind act settle like a warm cloth. If that memory is absent, imagine a hand at the back of the neck, a cup placed on the table, a photograph laid beside the lamp. Let the image ease the chest. The lamp makes a small circle of light. The book waits to open again. The next pages will bring more quiet images of mercy and hope. For now, keep the kindness close. Let the forgiveness in the story be a bridge for tonight. Rest with that truth. The room leans toward sleep. The story stays like a soft footstep that leads to peace. The lamp keeps its calm circle. The book waits on my knees. Tonight I speak softly about grace in hard places. The voice is slow. The pace gives room for the ear. Grace arrives often like a small instrument on a crowded console, a button pressed when systems fail. It does not fix every gauge. It steadies the course. The image is simple. It helps the mind not race for answers. The heart can feel steadied by a small correction. I read from the pages. The sentences are short. The reading is meant to be a tether. Scripture is my map and not my only language. I add pictures that feel true. One picture is of an astronaut finding a warm glove left by a friend inside a dark module. The glove fits the hand. It does not solve the whole emergency. It stops the fingers from going numb. That stop is grace. Grace also looks like a quiet repair. A seamstress returning at night to stitch a coat. The thread is ordinary. The work is careful. When storms come, the seam holds better because someone came late and mended what already wore thin. Notice that kind of mending tonight. It may be a text that says, I remembered, a neighbor bringing a bowl of soup, a message left on a calendar. These small acts are signals. They mean care continues, even when the world is unkind. There is a patience to grace. It does not always announce itself in thunder. It often shows up in the slow keeping of a promise, a friend who remembers to call back, a prayer repeated in the dark that returns as calm. The patience feels like an anchor, dropped just enough to stop drifting, but not so much to tether a person in place. The anchor creates space. The heart can breathe. When trouble tightens the chest, practice helps sense the arrival. Sit very still. Breathe long. Find a single, small fact that is true. A warm mug on the table. The sound of someone walking softly down the hall. The remembered kindness of a stranger last week. Hold that fact in the mind like a lantern. Let it cast a small glow over the worry. The light does not banish the dark. It makes it possible to see one step. Faith is often learned in small repetitions. Each act of noticing is a lesson. The first time a tiny mercy arrives. Disbelief may be strong. Later, after many small mercies, a pattern forms. The mind recognizes a hand at work that does not keep a ledger of faults. That recognition becomes a practice. It is like learning to read the dim stars again. The constellations return when patience meets attention. I tell a short memory now. One winter, I wake in the night with the chest tight and the mind full of lists. Step by step, I move to the kitchen to make tea. The pot hisses. A neighbor's light is on across the yard. A small silhouette leaves a note slipped under my door. You are not alone. The sentence is bare. The paper is plain. The feeling that follows is not a rescue. It is a settling. It is a grace note in a long, rough piece of music. That small note rewires the night, so sleep can return. Grace sometimes changes the path without changing the pain. The pain may remain. The sense of being accompanied changes the meaning of the pain. It moves from a story of abandonment to a story where company walks beside the hurt. That company is not a cure. It is a witness. Witnessing does not fix time. It makes time easier to hold. There are practical habits that help. Keep a small jar by the bed. Each night, drop in a scrap of paper with something that felt like mercy that day. It need not be large. It can be a smile, a giet mil, a prayer answered in a small way, a radiator that finally hums. Over weeks the jar fills. Its weight becomes proof that grace visits even when the calendar looks thin. Reaching for the jar the next time trouble comes is a gentle ritual. It reminds the heart of the pattern. Another habit is to name the hard thing and the small grace in the same breath. Say the fear. Then name one small kindness that touched the day. Saying both keeps the soul honest. It does not pretend the fear is small. It refuses the lie that the night is empty of help. This practice is like keeping two hands in the work. One holds the sore place. The other receives the offered balm. Grace is also visible in limits kept well. A person who protects a child from harm may also speak truth and refuse to enable further harm. That refusal is an act of care. It allows safety to be the ground on which mercy can grow. This balance matters in difficult times. Mercy without boundaries can leave a person exposed. Boundaries without mercy can make a person brittle. Grace navigates the two with a slow wisdom. When a sudden crisis arrives, small routines ground the body. A gentle breath pattern calms the heart. Breathe in 4 counts. Pause. Breathe out 6 counts. Repeat. The breath steadies. The body's alarms quiet. From that steadier place, noticing the small mercies becomes possible again. The notice is often what brings the sense of grace. Without breath, the mind can only circle worry. Community helps grace move when others keep watch. The work of care becomes broader than one tired pair of hands. A neighbor's small kindness can be the literal bridge to rest. A message posted in a shared group can ease the load of a single hour. When voices form a chorus, the presence felt is tangible. The chorus does not drown sorrow. It makes sorrow less isolating. Sensing grace often requires quiet acceptance. Resisting the offered help can feel noble. It is often exhaustion pretending to be strength. Accepting a small kindness is not weakness. It is wisdom. It recognizes that life is woven in many hands. Acceptance is a simple door opening. It brings more breath to the chest. There are nights when grace arrives through memory. A line of scripture that once mattered surfaces as a soft instrument. It does not solve everything. It holds. The same is true for an image, a hand, a face, a brief moment of startling care. The memory works like a stored battery, providing light when supply runs low. Keep those images ready. Return to one when the night grows long. When despair presses in, look for the ordinary signs. Warmth in a sweater, the small tilt of a cup carried by a friend, the hush that falls when someone sits and listens. These ordinary things are not incidental. They are the language of grace. They speak of presence more eloquently than 1,000 arguments. I am reading the Bible to you tonight, because the Scriptures offer steady language for these small mercies. The pages supply images that have helped many nights of wandering. I do not present theology as a weight. I offer it as a lamp. The words are an invitation to notice how care moves even in the worst hours. A small exercise now. Close the eyes if that helps. Take a breath in. Hold a beat. Let it go slow. Think of a single present difficulty. Say its name in the mind. Then recall one small good thing from the last week. Picture it carefully. Let the good thing drop beside the difficulty like a coin placed in a palm. Notice the chest. Feel whether the tightness lessens even a little. If so, let that be enough for this moment. Grace is not always dramatic. Often it is quiet endurance. A broken radio that keeps the last signal. A single hand on the shoulder. In a long ward. A neighbor who mends the fence at night. These things do the small work of holding life together when it begins to fray. I will read a short passage in a while that speaks of mercy coming to change the trajectory of a hard hour. The voice will be slow and plain. The words will not overpromise. They will offer a real remedy presence. Presence is steady. Presence does not erase the night. It makes the way through the night possible. Before the next page, a final invitation. Keep one small object by the bed tonight. It may be a stone, a scrap of fabric, a folded note. When the night grows heavy, hold it. Let it be a token, not of avoidance, but of remembering how grace met you before. The token is a bridge. Cross it slowly. The lamp breathes. The book lies ready. I will read on for you. Breathe and receive what small mercies come. Rest. The night keeps watch, and grace moves quietly in its ways. The lamp keeps its small island of light. The book rests open. Breath moves slow and even. I bring the page forward gently. There is a sentence I have read many nights. It sits now like a warm stone in the palm. The line insists on a single, calming truth. It says that love is nearer than the hardest thing. I do not unpack it like an argument. I do not attempt to prove it. I only hold the sentence to the ear. I let it land in the quiet between heartbeats. Tonight the words arrive as a soft assurance. They arrive like a hand laid on the back of a chair to steady someone rising. Nothing, the line says, can put that love beyond reach. No height, no depth, no moment of present fear, no future shadow. The images come slow and plain. Imagine a cliff. Imagine an ocean. Imagine the wide evening sky Each image meets the fact of love and finds it there. The love reaches across the cliff. It dives under the ocean. It sits in the quiet corner of the sky. I picture the river where I sometimes walk. The current can be strong. Rocks rise like problems. Wind pushes from odd angles. Yet even in the rough parts, the water keeps moving. Somewhere in that motion, there is a flow that persists. The presence that loves is like that current. It keeps going beneath the surface, steady and patient. That love does not measure worth. It does not tally performance. It watches the small, tired parts of a life without irony. It does not keep a ledger of late nights or missed chances. The care it offers is simple and plain. It comes again and again. Not only when the moments look tidy and bright, but also when a hand trembles and the list at the bedside is still long. Fear has a way of making the night loud. Thoughts run like animals in underbrush. The mind invents stories about being alone, about loss, swelling into forever. The sentence I read tonight counters that noise. It does not shout. It settles like a slow bell. The sound is small but true. It matters because it keeps repeating. Repetition builds a pathway through the dark. I name one worry now in the hush. Just one. It is not lifted as if by magic. The worry is moved less by vanishing and more by company. I imagine setting it into the palm and handing it across a table to someone whose hands are steady. The hands do not flinch. They take the worry and hold it like any fragile thing. This is the shape of the love in the sentence. It reaches. It keeps. Sometimes the heart resents the idea of unconditional good. The mind suspects strings, clauses, small invisible rules. The night is a safe place to admit those doubts. No shame follows the admission. The quiet accepts the question and sits with it. Then the sentence returns, not to browbeat, but to offer company. It places a soft lamp near where the doubt sits. Small rituals help the truth settle into the bones. Take a breath with me. In slowly. Hold for a moment. Out long. Repeat. With each exhale, imagine the weight of separation slipping a fraction of an inch away from the chest. The breath becomes a tether to the claim that love is nearer than any fear. The rhythm trains the body to receive a different story. I hold a pebble in my hand as I read. The smoothness presses against the palm. I think of the pebble as a little piece of the night's worry. I set it into a small bowl beside the lamp. The act is quiet and simple. The pebble does not dissolve. It moves a dress. It becomes an offering placed where tenderness can carry it. The bowl is a small witness to the truth that no thing can sever the bond of love. There are hard images that try to speak against this truth. Loss looks like a closed door. Illness looks like winter. The mind lists all the ways separation might appear. Each listed image I meet with a simple counter. The love is present still. It appears not as a grand rescue, but as small attentions. A neighbor's coffee. A hand that brushes a sleeve in passing. A remembered word that keeps the night from being empty. The sentence also frames grief in a different light. Grief holds real weight. It is not a sign that the love is absent. It becomes part of the journey. The love walks beside grief. Sometimes it walks ahead and lights a little footpath. Sometimes it sits with the sorrow by the roadside. The difference is not always dramatic. It is steady and patient. That steadiness is enough to keep a person from collapsing beneath the load. When loneliness thickens, look to the small signs of care. A postcard, a quiet call, an unexpected kindness left on the porch. These are not grand miracles. They are proof that hands and hearts still reach. The presence behind the sentence organizes these small acts like threads in a blanket. In time, the threads make warmth. I think of a night long ago when the chest carried a soundtrack of not enough. The world outside hummed with other people's clamor. Inside, the list of inadequacies stretched. One faint lamp across a narrow street stayed lit for hours. It did not announce itself. It simply burned. That small light became a reference point. In the morning, the burden felt less like a mountain and more like a hill. The sentence about never being separated fits that lamp. It is the kind of light that doesn't quit. Prayer here is brief. A single breath that names a need. No elaborate lines. No performance. The prayer is more an orientation than a demand. It says simply be near. The asking itself matters. It aligns the heart with a reminder that love is faithful and present. The fear of unseen powers can be loud in some minds. The sentence for tonight answers with images rather than abstract claims. Think of the highest peak and the deepest valley. The love reaches both. Think of tomorrow's unknowns. The love sits patiently through the unknowns as well. Think of the darkest thought that visits at 3 a.m. The sentence says that thought does not define the space where love moves. Holding that sentence close invites small courage. Leave the lamp on a little longer. Take one more breath. Say the line slowly, in the mind. Let it be a lullaby that repeats without demand. Repetition makes the claim less foreign. Over time, the claim becomes a kind of muscle tension, gives way to a soft strength. I do not insist on certainty. Doubt can be faithful company. The questioners often love deeply because they feel the weight of the world. The sentence does not obliterate doubt. It reorients it. Doubt becomes a place to bring the lamp, not a reason to turn the lamp off. Bring the question into the light. Let it be seen. If sleep remains distant, try a small imagining. Picture a hand under a thin blanket. The hand does not grip. It rests. Now picture another hand beneath it, offering support not by clamping down, but by simply being there. The picture is soft. It takes no bright stance. It allows both the hand and the blanket to exist without shame. There is also a practical habit that helps the mind accept the claim. Keep a small jar by the bedside. Each night, drop in a tiny scrap of paper with one small thing that felt like love during the day. It can be a stranger's smile, a vurmel, the memory of a song. Over weeks, the jar fills. Its weight becomes visible evidence that the love visits in small ways. Sometimes people fear that trusting the sentence will make them passive. The truth of it asks not for passivity, but for steadiness. The love that cannot be separated invites work of small courage to call someone in the morning, to leave a note of thanks, to fold a piece of care, and place it where it can be found. Loving is practiced in tiny steps, not dramatic leaps. I breathe now with the room. In, hold, out, a few slow times. Feel the heart making a little room. The sentence rests at the center like a small lamp. It does not require proofs. It requires presence. The presence asked for tonight is not loud. It is consistent. There will be nights that feel like tests. Difficult news. Ayúdenlos. The claim about unending love does not promise that pain will be absent. It promises that the pain is not the last word. Presence remains when the world shifts. That presence shelters, steadies, and keeps the memory of good near the broken place. Before the page turns to the next reading, a short exercise. Take one thought that has been looping tonight. Name it. Hold it in one hand. Imagine another hand, gentle and sure taking it. Release. Place a pebble into the bowl beside the lamp. Breathe. Thank the small act. Rest. The last lamp in the street blinks as I read. The house breathes with the same slow rhythm. The sentence about love settles into the room like a blanket. It is not flashy. It is steady. It is enough for this hour. I close the book softly for a moment. The circle of light remains. The sentence will return when the page opens again. For now, let the idea of unending love nestle near the ribs. Let it be a small harbor where weariness can find a mooring. Breathe once more. Lay the head down with that truth as company. The night keeps watch. The love that holds does not go away. I settle deeper into the chair. The night is soft around the windows. I move slowly, making room for rest. Small actions set a tone. They ask the body to follow. First, I silence the devices. The screen light goes dark. The quiet that follows is not empty. It is an offering. I dim the lamp a little more. The light becomes a low pool near my hands. I fold a small cloth over my knees. The fabric feels like an agreement with the hour. A warm cup sits on the table. Steam lifts in a thin line and then eases away. The room breathes with me. I place the Bible where my hands can reach it without strain. I do not plan a long reading. A few short verses are enough. I trace the cover with my thumb as a small, grounding gesture. The book is familiar. Its pages are not a work to finish tonight. They are a friend to visit. Before I read, I do a quick body check. I let my chin ease down. I soften the jaw. I soften the shoulders. I open the chest by a fraction. A small roll of the shoulders releases tension like an exhale. Each movement is slow and deliberate. The body learns to relax when the hands move with gentleness. I pick a short passage that speaks of presence and rest. The words are simple. I let each line land. I do not rush. I read in a measured rhythm. I give space for each image to sink in. Between verses I pause and listen. The silence is part of the reading. It lets what I hear take root. After the reading, I give myself 3 quiet questions. What carried me through today? What did I carry alone that I do not have to carry tonight? What small kindness did I notice? Even if it was only in my memory, I do not answer quickly. I let the questions sit like stones in a shallow pool. Ripples foam. Small truths rise. Then I turn to a short moment of reflection. I do not try to solve everything. I simply name one thing that needs care, and one thing I can thank for. The naming is gentle. It does not sound like a report. It is a mindful act of recognition. For the thing that needs care, I imagine placing it into a soft palm. I imagine handing it over. I do not rehearse every detail of the problem. I let the act of letting go be the work. Next comes a brief prayer. It is short and clear. I begin with thanks. I speak one sentence that names a small mercy from the day. Then I offer a modest confession. I do not list failings like debts. I state one honest regret, and then ask for help to not make it heavier than it needs to be. Finally, I offer a simple surrender, a small, willing placing of the night into hands that care. The prayer is not a bargain. It is a breath with direction. I breathe in slowly. I count without hurry. I hold the breath just long enough to notice the quiet behind the pulse. I breathe out as if releasing a thin rope of tension. With each exhale, the shoulders drop a little more. The breath becomes a gentle metronome that steadies the mind. A short body scan follows. I begin at the crown of the head and move down. I notice the small tightness behind the eyes. I soften the forehead. The tongue rests. The neck loosens. Each part gets attention, and then permission to relax. The hands unclench. The stomach unwinds. The legs sink into the chair. The feet make contact with the floor or the blanket. The scan is not a task to finish fast. It is a slow and kind inspection. If rest feels distant, I use an image to guide me. I picture a harbor at dusk. The water is calm. Small boats sit quietly against their moorings. A lantern swings gently on a post. The scene is safe. It does not erase the ocean's depth. It marks a place to be still. I place my worries into the imagined boat and watch the tide take them a short way out. The motion is not violent. It is steady and simple. I sometimes read aloud one short verse again, not to prove anything, but to let the phrase nestle into the ear. The voice itself is a kind of lullaby. Speaking softly gives the thought a body. Hearing the words move through my own mouth makes them easier to accept. I do not aim to be eloquent. I aim to be honest and calm. After the prayer, I make a small practical step. I set the cup aside in a safe place. I close the Bible slowly and place a finger between the pages of the spot I will return to. I tuck the cloth over my lap. These little rituals are anchors. They tell the nervous system that the day is ending. If sleep is stubborn, I use a gentle counting practice. I inhale for 4 counts. I hold for 2. I exhale for 6. This lengthened exhale signals the body that danger is not immediate. The parasympathetic system answers with soft readiness for rest. I repeat the breath 3 or 4 times. Each repetition nudges the body toward calm. When thoughts try to crowd the quiet, I do not wrestle them. I let them have a seat in the room without inviting them to speak at length. I name each thought with one soft word: worry, regret, plan. Then I return to the breath. Naming is a small guidance. It keeps the thoughts from growing like vines in the dark. I also practice a short examine of the day. I look for one moment of delight. It may be a cup of tea sipped too quickly, or a look from a friend miles away. I keep that moment in focus for one full breath. Then I notice one place I would like to change. I do not dwell on the whole pattern. I choose one small step I can take tomorrow. The examine ends with gratitude for both the gentle and the hard parts. Held together in honest hands, I sometimes use a soft tactile token. The object is simple, a smooth stone, a scrap of cloth, a tiny card with a single line. I hold the token as I pray. The touch is a reminder. It says that the prayer is not only words. It is an action that invites rest. After the prayer, I set the token into the bowl on the nightstand. The bowl keeps the small things of the night like a witness. When fear visits late, I bring to mind one short story of care from my life. It might be a neighbor leaving a light on when the roads are dark. It might be someone's quiet courage in a small moment. I let that memory enlarge just enough to give the chest room. Memory is a soft medicine. It is not a solution, but it moves the heart. Before the final rest, I make a last offering. I place one name in the silence. It might be a name of someone who needs healing. It might be a name of someone I have wronged. I hold the name in the mind for a breath, and then release it outward. The act feels like setting down a small lamp in a window across the street. The light is modest. The light is enough. If I feel particularly tired or weary, I offer a blessing over myself. I do not aim for perfection in the words. The blessing is a simple phrase. Be held. It is short, because short phrases can be strong. The blessing repeats in the mind like a small promise. It helps the body believe in rest. I give thanks for the little signs of mercy that have visited. I do not tally greatness. I notice smallness. A soft word. A warm meal. A hand that steadied me for a minute. These things collect like pebbles. Over time they build a path. Counting them is a practice that opens the heart. Finally, I choose to trust the night. Trust is not a sudden surrender. It is a practiced stance. It is leaning into fact that care is near. It is letting the breath and the small rituals do the work. I turn the face toward the pillow. I let the eyes soften. I do not command sleep. I make space for it. As the body settles, I keep one small intention for the morning. I think of a single, gentle thing to do once the day begins. A short walk. A phone call to a friend. A cup of tea with no rush. Having a gentle plan gives the night a gateway. It tells the mind that the caring acts resume at dawn. I close with a short, quiet prayer spoken under my breath. It is brief and simple. It asks for rest. It asks for mercy to hold the hours. It asks for courage to meet tomorrow with small, steady steps. The prayer is a last breath before sleep. The lamp blurs slightly as the lids grow heavy. The cup cools. The room holds its soft shapes. I let the list of tasks go. I trust that the small rituals will keep me from carrying too much overnight. I allow the body to let go into the hush. If waking happens in the night, I will return to the breath, to the token, to the short prayer. The routine is a soft map. It does not promise a perfect sleep every hour. It promises a steady way to come back to rest. For now, I rest with one hand loosely on the blanket and one small thought of thanks. The house keeps a quiet watch. The book rests where I left it. I am willing to let the night do its work. I breathe, slow and steady. The breath becomes a rhythm that closes the day. The final thought is simple and sure. You are safe to sleep. You are kept. You are not alone. I let the room carry me into the next hour. The practice is complete for tonight. The quiet is a companion. The prayer stays like an ember. I do not chase the sleep. I become the kind of stillness that sleep finds. The lamp goes lower. The breathing softens. The body surrenders. Gently and without shame. The night receives me, and I receive rest. The lamp holds a steady pool of light. The Bible rests on the knee. A particular line in my memory rises tonight. It says that a certain peace comes from God. It calls that peace beyond what the mind can fully explain. It promises that the peace will guard hearts and minds. It uses a word like guard. The word sits like a soft hinge on the door of sleep. I do not try to make that line into a lecture. I fold it into the small habits of the evening. The sentence becomes a quiet map. It shows where to set the cares before the night grows large. The idea of peace that surpasses understanding is not an argument to win. It is an invitation to rest. It is a hand that steadies the shoulder without dragging the story under a floodlight. Understanding normally tries to weigh and measure. It wants causes and steps and proofs. This peace moves beside that habit. It does not insist on being explained. It meets the chest where counting has worn the ribs thin. It settles there like a warm cloth, placed carefully across a bruise. The cloth does not remove the bruise. It makes motion less sharp for a night. Imagine the mind as a small courtyard. Worries gather there like restless birds. The peace comes as a slow dusk. The birds do not vanish at once. They quiet. Their wings fold. The courtyard feels fuller of hush than of noise. That hush is not an absence of thought. It is a different kind of company. Thoughts still come, but something holds them differently. They no longer tremble the whole courtyard. The text about guarding the heart and mind uses the language of a sentinel, yet this sentinel is not fierce. It is gentle. It keeps watch with a soft lamp and a low, steady breath. It does not patrol with accusation. It stands with hands ready to accept what is brought. It takes what is offered and places it into a safe keeping. That is the shape of the peace I read about tonight. To feel that guard, try a simple practice. Close the eyes if that helps. Take 3 slow breaths. Give each breath a label. The first is a letting go. The second is a receiving. The third is a resting. Picture a small chest on a low table by the bed. It is plain wood. The lid moves easily. On a scrap of paper, name 1 worry. Fold the scrap in 2. Place it in the chest. Close the lid. Imagine the chest's lightness when closed. Imagine a quiet presence taking the key and slipping it into a pocket. The presence does not leave. It keeps the key. The worry stays safe. the heart can loosen. Do not feel the need to explain how the chest works. Do not demand a visible result. The act is practice. Repetition trains a limb. Over time, the nervous system learns a different cue. The chest closes. The breathing slows. The mind returns to steady rhythms. The peace that surpasses understanding meets that practical movement and lingers. Another image that helps is a nighttime harbor. Boats roll a little on slow swells. Lanterns dot the shore. The guardian of the harbor is not a distant storm mast. It is the constant light on the dock. It marks the safe place where a tired vessel can tie its rope. The piece in the line I read acts like that dock light. It does not drag the sea into stillness. It simply makes a place to land. Some hearts push back. They ask whether this piece will fix sorrow. Kurelos. Banish every hard memory. The reading does not promise removal of pain on demand. It promises something quieter and more reliable. It promises a steady hand in the dark. It promises accompaniment that steadies breathing and softens the edge of midnight thoughts. That steadiness is hope in small doses. It is enough to let sleep come in fragments that add up. The guarding is not a barrier against feeling. Rather, it is a shelter for feeling. Emotions can still arrive. They will still have weight. The guard takes that weight in a way that prevents the chest from collapsing under it. Imagine a gentle shelf placed under a heavy bowl. The bowl still rests on the shelf and keeps its shape. The shelf does its work without drawing attention. For those who are worn thin by anxiety, try this posture. Sit with both feet grounded. Rest the hands on the thighs. Breathe in long and soft. With the out-breath, imagine a soft presence drawing a circle around the head and heart. The circle is not a wall. It is a warm ring that hums at a low volume. Let the ring be a sentinel that keeps the night from pressing in too hard. Cultivate the image calmly. Without effort, let it become a familiar place to return to. Sometimes the mind resists simple images. In that case, return to the body. Notice the place behind the sternum. Place a hand there lightly. Feel the rise and fall beneath the palm. Tell the heart quietly and without ceremony that presence is near. Speak a single small sentence in the mind. Be calm. Let the sentence be a key. Turn slowly. Do it without demand. Repeat once or twice. The rhythm alone becomes an ally to the peace that surpasses understanding. Remember that peace often arrives through other hands. A neighbor's small help. A friend's brief note. A song remembered from childhood. These are ways the guard moves in the world. They are the bodily signs of a presence that watches. Keep a small list of them in the memory. When the night grows sharp, let the list come forward. Read it evenly like names of lights along the shore. There is mercy in the guard's work. Mercy does not awaken judgment in the dark. It receives what is offered without tallying failings. That mercy is a shelter that the heart can enter when surfaces are raw. It is not naive. It does not pretend that harm did not occur. It simply offers a place where the mind and chest can rest long enough to keep going. If fear is loud, use a short breathing cadence to steady it. Inhale, 4 counts. Hold 2. Exhale 6. Repeat 2 or 3 times. With each cycle, imagine the guard moving nearer. Picture the ring of calm drawing tighter by a fraction. Do not expect silence. Expect a steadier pulse. Let the body register the difference. For nights when tasks crowd the mind, try a ledger of mercy. Take a pen and write 3 small items on a scrap. 1 thing to thank for, 1 small need to hand over, 1 gentle step for tomorrow. Fold the scrap and place it near the pillow. This small ledger is not a productivity list. It is a tiny covenant with rest. It tells the restless mind that some small order exists and that someone trustworthy keeps watch over what is placed there. Do not mistake peace that surpasses understanding for a warm feeling only. It can be quiet, even stern in its tenderness. Sometimes it will withhold frenzy by patience rather than by cheer. It waits. It does not hurry resolution. It steadies the person enough to rise and walk in the morning. When sleep does not come, do not blame the self. The guard's work is not measured by the hours of uninterrupted rest. It is measured by the small returns to calm within the dark. Each time the breath finds evenness, each time the mind stops its fierce circling for a moment, the guard is at work. Mark those moments as wins. Hold them gently. I am reading these lines to you because the Bible gives language to this kind of keeping. Scripture often chooses images rather than proofs. It speaks in lamps, in hands, in small chests and harbor lights. Those pictures are not clever substitutes for reality. They are invitations to receive a real steadiness that the mind alone cannot conjure. The promise that the peace will guard hearts and minds rests on that steadiness. Before moving on, take 1 small exercise with me. Close the eyes if comfortable. Place the left hand over the heart. Take 3 slow breaths. Name 1 worry. Picture a small piece of paper. Fold it. Imagine placing it in a guardian's hand. See the hand close the palm. Hear no words. Feel the light lifting off the chest like a veil. Rest in that lifted space for a few breaths. Let the imagined sentinel stand at the doorway of sleep. Keep the picture simple. Keep it soft. When the reading resumes, the voice will move in the same quiet tempo. It will not push for dramatic assurance. It will keep offering a lamp, a harbor, a chest, and a sentry. Those simple things are enough for now. They build a way of returning to rest. The lamp circle is small, but it matters. The guard in the line I read tonight is not loud. It keeps the night in a gentle fold. The heart can settle. The mind can rest. The guard keeps watch without requiring full understanding. It simply keeps watch. That watching is a mercy. Rest now if you can. Let the image of the sentinel and the harbor and the closed chest stay near. Carry the breathing cadence into sleep if it helps. The night will move on its own rhythms. The peace that surpasses understanding remains a companion through those rhythms. It guards what matters most. The book closes softly for a moment. The lamp hums low. The room leans into the hush with a careful, watchful peace. The lamp keeps its soft circle. The book closes for a moment. I fold my hands and breathe. The room has the same hush it has had all night. This is where the story arrives, not loud, not dramatic, but precise and steady. Weeks ago the chest felt tight in a way that did not ease with sleep. A stack of small defeats sits heavy. A long list of ordinary failures presses at the ribs. Tasks multiply. Gratitude grows thin at the edges. The mind rehearses negatives like a scratched record. Rest feels distant. A friend arrives that evening without spectacle. They do not offer a sermon. They carry 2 mugs and a slow step. The light catches the steam as a thin paper ribbon. The gesture is ordinary. It is exactly the kind of thing that arrives when mercy wants to be practical. They sit across from me. Their presence is plain. There is no performance. The hands do a small, steady thing, a mug set down, a cloth smoothed. Those small actions speak in the language most worn hearts understand. Someone takes the trouble to be near. Their words are gentle. They are not long. They are honest and kind. They name the tiredness without pretending to fix it all. They point back to a truth that has felt easy to forget. Life is held. Even when proof seems absent, the encouragement does not try to correct every worry. It simply reassures the heart that it is not abandoned. It feels like a hand laid near the shoulder of a tired traveler. The warmth is not theatrical. It is immediate. It presses lightly and stays. That light pressure makes the next breath possible. Fear loosens a little. The jaw unclenches. The story in the head still runs. But the sound is thinner now. There is room to listen. I remember how those words ripple. They do not erase the hard facts. They loosen the grip on them. The mind can set down the load for a moment and look across the table. The friend's voice becomes a small lamp. It does not banish the night. It shows a single step forward. Later, alone, I turn those words over like a small stone. The sense of being seen is not a loud event. It is a quiet confirmation that someone else notices. That noticing is a form of God's voice in a human tongue. God often speaks through the steady patience of another person, not with thunder, but with a neighbor's careful attention. It helps to think of how God's voice has been pictured in the pages I read each night. The grand metaphors are there, but so are the small ones. The hand that ties a shoe, the neighbor who leaves bread at a door, the friend who sits through silence. The friend's encouraging words line up with that pattern. They embody an incarnate kindness that teaches the heart how the divine often chooses to be present. The effect is practical. The mind gains a foothold. Sleep does not come immediately, but the space for it opens. The rhythm of breath changes. The body stops bracing. A long day shrinks to one manageable detail. The chest remembers what it is to be accompanied rather than judged. There is mercy in the ordinary acts. A sentence of encouragement acts like a small bridge over an anxious place. The bridge is not meant to bear every weight at once. It lets the foot cross. Later, when momentum grows, more steps come. The encouragement is an initial architecture of hope. This is how God's voice often works for me. It comes through people who will stay when staying is small and difficult. It comes through hands that do not withdraw when things feel heavy. It comes where the voice says simply that the ache is known and the person is not alone. The message is not complex theology. It is compassion, embodied. It points toward mercy and makes it plausible for the night. The friend's insistence to hold on softly and without pressure creates a practice I return to. When the mind spins, think of that table, Pictur amuk. Imagine the steam. Remember the steady hand. Let that memory name one truth someone cares enough to be present. That memory becomes a small anchor. I learnt another quiet habit after that evening. When an anxious thought comes, I picture a safe surface and place the thought there. Sometimes the surface is a kitchen table. Sometimes it is the friend's warm palm in memory. The act of placing the worry somewhere outside the chest loosens it. The body responds. The shoulders drop. The rhythm eases. Encouraging words from friends are often brief. They can be a single phrase remarked, as one might hand over a coin for the bus, unremarkable and precise. The economy of them is part of their gift. They do not try to solve, they invite trust. They help the heart take one small step. This is not to say others will always help or be able to. People are fragile. A friend may not have wise words every time, but the possibility that they will show up colors the dark. The promise that someone might be willing to sit and to remind is itself a comfort. The knowledge that a human voice will sometimes echo God's mercy is enough to steady the breathing for an hour. There is an echo here of things I read earlier in the Bible. The pages show patience and tenderness alongside law. The loud proclamations are balanced by the small attentions. The friend's encouragement feels like that balance enacted. It is a living parable of mercy. Of course, the next morning the list of concerns returns, but the practice repeats too. When the chest tightens again, reach for the memory. Remember the 2 mugs. Remember the steam. Remember the brief sentence that changed the angle of the evening. Let those recollections act like a lens that reframes the overwhelming into the manageable. This is a gentle exercise I offer. Think of one person who once offered a small mercy. It might be a friend, a neighbor, a teacher. Picture the scene with as much detail as can be mustered, the light source, the objects on the table, the sound of feet on wood. Hold that scene for one breath. Let it anchor the heart for the length of one exhale. This practice does not demand grand emotion. It is a little training for the nervous system. There is another quiet action to take. When encouragement comes, keep a small token that represents it. A pebbul, a ticket stub, a scrap of paper. Place it on the bedside table. The token becomes a witness. In the late hours when the mind is loud, touch it once. The contact calls back the steady presence of that friend. The simple object recalls the steady voice of mercy. I also learned to pass the kindness forward. After the evening with my friend, I rested more often the next times a neighbor looked tired. The gestures came small: an extra blanket, a plate at the door, a night call that asks nothing but presence. Mercy breeds the shape of mercy. The friend's encouragement was a seed. The seed grows when planted again. There are nights when words fail, and being is all that is needed. A shared silence in a room can do as much healing as the cleverest sentence. The friend's presence taught this too. Sometimes the most eloquent aid is simple attendance. The holy often chooses that route. If the mind raises questions about whether this is truly a divine voice, the answer is not found in proof. It is found in effect. The encouragement alters the heart's posture toward hope. It loosens fear. It nudges the chest toward softer rhythms of breath. That change is evidence enough for this hour. I read these things to you, not to persuade, but to offer a map. The Bible provides many routes by which mercy moves. This story is one small route, God speaking through a faithful friend. The pattern repeats in many lives. It is a practical theology, lived out in mugs of tea and hands that touch lightly. Before the page opens again, take one slow breath with me. Think of one name that once said a small, steady thing to you. Hold it in thought. Picture the lamp and the mug and the hand. Let the memory sit in the chest like a little lantern. If you are able, place a small object beside your bed that recalls the moment. Let it be a token of the fact that you are not alone. The lamp dims a fraction. The book slides under a palm. The memory of the friend remains warm. Tonight the voice of God is heard in human speech. It is simple. It is kind. It is enough for this hour. When the next part begins, the reading will return to small practices of mercy and rest. For now, carry the friend's encouragement into the hush. Let it be a beacon. Let it guide the breath. Rest, knowing that words of kindness can become the very voice of care when given and received in truth. Jesus is love and compassion. I sit with the book open and let a different kind of quiet gather. The pages are not heavy tonight. They are soft with memory. I place my hand on the cover and breathe. A simple image comes forward, a table where bread is broken and hands are gentled. That image steadies the heart. I remember a passage about hands that wash feet and hands that touch wounds. Those images are plain. They ask for no argument. They ask only to be seen. I think of a pair of hands that bend low to care for what is small and wounded. The act is not dramatic. It is ordinary and faithful. It comforts like a warm cloth placed gently on a bruise. Sometimes, compassion looks like a quiet walk to the bedside of someone who cannot sleep. Sometimes it looks like a small loaf placed at a neighbor's door. Tonight, the memory of those small things speaks more loudly than a long sermon. The tenderness in those moments feels close enough to touch. I let the mind rest on the story of someone who stands where others recoil. The one who bears sorrow does not turn away from the ache. Instead, care leans in. There is a particular softness to that leaning. It does not erase pain. It holds it in a way that makes breath possible again. That kind of compassion becomes a lamp in the dark. When grief presses, I think of a simple picture, a person carrying water for another who is too tired to fetch it. The carrying is small. It matters. It says, without fanfare, you are seen. You are not left to carry this alone. That is the essence of the comfort I read about tonight. There are nights when remembering the sacrifice gives a calm that is not loud. It is a quiet certainty. The memory is like a steady rhythm under thin skin. It does not promise immediate change. It offers a persistent presence. The knowledge that someone understands and has borne suffering before brings a kind of company. The companion does not erase struggle. It makes the way through struggle lighter by degrees. I bring a single memory from my own life. A late winter illness kept sleep away for days. The chest tightened with small fears. A friend sat at the bedside without many words. She put a warm cup in my hand and hummed one short tune. The humming was slow and patient. It did not fix the fever. It made the hours bearable. That same shape of presence is what I find in the Gospel. Stories close attention. Small acts. Steady care. Compassion often arrives in gestures that are bodily. A touch on the shoulder, water poured into a cupped hand, a broken loaf shared. The body remembers these things long after arguments fade. In the hush of the night, the memory of a touch can soothe more than a list of reasons or a tidy answer. The tactile mercy tells the nervous system it is allowed to stop fighting for a moment. I read passages that show the wounded and the wounded healer side by side. The images do not shame the one who is weak. They place the weak in a field of attention. Mercy does not require performance. It does not demand a polished face. It receives what is given, even if what is given is trembling or small. There is comfort in the idea of wounds kept and not hidden. The story I read does not bandage the hurt only to march on. It tends the place. The tending can be long and careful. The patient work matters. It makes new life possible. Slowly, that slow work is a form of hope. Hope here is not pressure. It is a steady expectation that things may grow again in time. Sometimes imagining the scene helps. Picture a small room where night has settled. One person is asleep. Another sits awake and holds a lamp. The lamp does not erase the dark. It allows a single corner to be warm. In that corner, a hand reaches out to brush back hair, to press a cool cloth to a fevered brow, to whisper a blessing that is quiet enough to be almost a breath. That is the style of love I read tonight. When doubt comes, remember the parts of the story that speak of receiving the outcast. The images of meals shared with the lonely are not about rules. They are about presence. They say that mercy draws close to those who feel far. That drawing near is the practical work of consolation. It moves the heart from isolation into community, piece by piece. I hold the book and imagine a short practice for this kind of compassion. Choose one small act before sleep. Place a cup of water where it can be easily reached by someone who wakes thirsty. Leave a soft note for a housemate. Touch a picture on the table and listen to the memory it brings. These acts are simple. They embody the same tenderness the gospel shows. There are nights when remembering the cross feels heavy. The weight can seem too much for the tired mind. So I turn the thought to the gentler images, feet washed, children gathered, hands that heal leprosy. These pictures balance the weight. They remind the heart that sacrifice and mercy are parts of the same story. The sacrifice awakens tenderness that continues to move in small, daily ways. Forgiveness grows out of that tenderness, where mercy leans in. Resentment loosens its hold. Forgiving is not forgetting. It is changing the place where a memory sits. When mercy is the guide, the memory becomes edged with kindness as well as pain. The shift does not always feel complete, but it changes the night enough to let rest begin. I read aloud one quiet sentence about love that bears and continues. The voice stays soft. The words settle like rain on a roof. They do not demand immediate faith. They invite. Hearing them, the chest eases, the breath lengthens by a small measure. That small change is enough for the night. Tonight I invite a short exercise. Take a breath. Think of one small kindness you have received. Hold that image as gently as you would a cup. Breathe it into the body. Let the memory spread like warmth across a cold hand. Repeat once. Let the kindness you remember be a counterweight to whatever anxiety remains. Jesus' compassion and sacrifice are not abstract claims for bedtime. They are lived gestures that offer shelter. They teach a practice of staying when life is rough. Remember the lamp, the cup, the warm hand. Let those remembered acts become a small store of comfort for nights that grow long. Shu, conclusion and blessing. The hour is late. The lamp grows softer. The book closes with a careful hand. The voice that has read tonight takes one last breath and speaks a brief blessing. The blessing is simple and specific. May you feel gentle hands near you. May small acts of mercy find your path. May rest come in pieces that add up. May the memory of kindness steady you. When the night sharpens, may you be shown grace enough for the waking and the sleeping. Do one small, practical thing before you lie down. Place a glass of water within reach. Fold a soft scrap of paper with one name you want to hold in prayer. Keep a stone or token by your pillow. These small objects are reminders that care is tangible. They work on the body as much as on the mind. If your night grows restless, return to the breathing we practiced. Slow inhale, pause. Slow exhale. Name one worry and set it gently aside. Picture it placed on a table outside yourself. Imagine a steady hand keeping it there for you. The image is not proof. It is comfort. Use it as often as needed. Before the final rest, offer a short word of thanks. Thank one small mercy from the day. Thank one neighbor, one stranger, one warm cup. The act of thanks does not demand joy. It only calls attention to what kept the day moving. Gratitude narrows the space. Anxiety occupies. I will read again another night. The lamp will be lit. The book will open. The voice will come in the same calm tempo. For now, close the eyes if you can. Let the room hold you. Let the remembered hands of mercy be near. Sleep without shame. Rest is not a failure. It is a necessary receiving of care. A final prayer rises in a low voice. It is brief and true. It asks for mercy for the tired. It asks for courage for tomorrow. It asks for a peace that holds even when understanding feels thin. The prayer ends not with a demand, but with a handing over. Go now into the night with this small promise: you are seen. You are remembered. You are cared for. Sleep as if someone has already prepared the way. Breathe. Rest. The room keeps watch. The lamp waits to lift again when dawn draws near. I sit very still. The lamp keeps its small pool of light. The room breathes with me. Pages of the book rest open and warm. A final part settles into the space between breaths. Tonight has been slow and kind. The words have moved like soft steps. Each image has had room to land. The book has been a companion, not a test. The voice has stayed patient. That is what the hour asks for. Before closing, a few small practices gather together. They are not hard. They are not long. They are meant to be used by tired hands and heavy minds. First, name one gentle thing from today. It might be a cup of tea. It might be a short call. It might be a moment when someone held the door. Keep the image small. Let it sit in the chest like a warm pebble. Second, choose one worry to set down. Picture it as an item you can hand over, a pebble into a bowl, a leaf onto the river. Do this without hurry. Breathe in, breathe out. Let the motion move the weight. Third, keep one token by the bed, a stone, a scrap of paper, a small photograph. Let it be a simple witness. When the night grows loud, touch it once. Let the touch call back a memory of mercy. These are gentle rhythms. They ask for patience more than performance. They are repeated practices, not single events. Repetition invites change. Little habits shape rest. Now, a few quiet reminders from the pages I read for you. Presence comes in small acts. A hand that lifts a blanket, a neighbor who leaves bread, a friend who stays in the quiet. These things embody care. They do not erase sorrow. They make the burden lighter for the night. Mercy shows itself by staying. It leans into wounds without pretending they are tidy. It tends slowly. It comes like steady mending. Stitch by stitch. That mending is the work that keeps the tired upright. Forgiveness is a path inward. It asks for naming and then a letting go. It does not force forgetting. It changes where the memory sits. It frees the hands for new things. Practice it with small gestures. Fold a paper. Place it in the bowl. Breathe. Casting anxieties is a simple craft. Name one fear. Put it in a small place. Imagine a steady hand receiving it. Picture the hand keeping it. The act teaches trust more than it proves it. Practice again when the mind returns to the same worry. Grace appears in the ordinary, a neighbor's light on at night, a short note under a door, a quiet hum beside the fevered brow. These small mercies form a chain. The chain holds when the night threatens to pull apart the edges. Love that never parts is the deepest promise. It is not a promise to erase pain. It is a promise to not leave the hurting alone. Imagine a hand beneath the hand that trembles. Imagine a light that remains on the darkest shore. Let that image be the steadying thing when doubt presses. Now a gentle blessing for this hour. May hands that are kind find you. May small acts of mercy reach the place that feels raw. May rest arrive in parts that add into whole. May the breathing slow enough for simple prayers to be heard. May peace, quiet and deep, settle like a blanket across the chest. May thoughts that race grow soft. May the mind find its harbor and let the anchor hold. May the heart feel light enough to open to a single kind thing. May compassion be given and received with simple humility. May forgiveness find a way to loosen the places that bind. May wise boundaries keep the tender parts safe. May small reconciliations grow over time. Gentle and steady, may the presence that knows every thought be near. May the one who counts names, keep the memory of you. May you be held without needing to perform. May the knowing be a shelter, not a judgment. If the night unravels you again, come back to breath. In slowly, hold. Out slowly. Repeat. Let breath be the tether. Let the simple cadence bring the body home to rest. A short practice before sleep help. Set a glass of water within reach. Fold a scrap of paper with one name, someone to bless, or someone to hold in prayer. Place a token on the pillow. Make the motions slow. Make the heart honest. These small actions speak to the body as much as to the mind. When waking disrupts the night, do not measure failure. Return to the token. Touch it. Say one soft sentence, be held. Breathe. Let the imagined hand take one small piece of worry and keep it. The act is faithful, even when the mind circles. Sharing warmth matters. When someone else looks tired, offer a plain thing, a hot cup, a short note, a short time spent listening. Spare no grandeur. Small gestures widen the circle of care. They make a room that tolerates human weakness and still invites rest. If this hour brought you comfort, share it with another who might need the same lamp. A message, a folded paper, a quiet word left on a doorstep. These acts build a community that keeps watch. The work of mercy spreads by small hands and steady steps. I read the Bible to you at this hour because the pages hold speech for the weary. They give images and habits that are sensible in the dark. The book does not promise only answers. It gives a way to live beside the hard things. It teaches rest. A last short prayer rises. It is humble and small. It asks for mercy for the tired. It asks for courage for the mourning. It asks for peace that steadies, even when understanding feels thin. The prayer places the night into hands that are faithful. Go now, with this gentle truth. You are seen. You are remembered. You are loved. The love does not go away when fear grows loud. It remains. It holds quietly. Without show, rest in that hold. Sleep without shame. Sleep as if someone has already prepared the way. Breathe slow. Let the small practices do their work. Keep the token near. Leave the light on a little, if that helps. Rise gently when the morning comes. When this hour returns again, the lamp will be lit. The pages will open. The voice will read in the same slow way. For now, let the night take its time with you. Let the breath and the small gestures guide the way. May peace rest upon you. May rest restore the places that ache. May the steady love that never parts be your companion through this night and the next. Share the warmth you feel with one other soul when you can. Keep the circle small and steady. The lamp dims but does not go out. The book closes with care. A soft hand rests on its cover. One last breath comes in. One long release goes out. Good night. Rest. You are held.